This is a short training video to look at the attendance or adding attendance feature in Students Achieve or SAS. When we first log in as a teacher into Students Achieve, we land on this splash screen, and from here we can access how we will enter attendance for the day or for our class. There are two ways to access the attendance functionality. One is from the tabs along the top. If we click on Manage, you'll see another tab for attendance. You can simply just click on this link that will take you to the classroom attendance functionality. Most people though will use the input classroom attendance feature right here on the splash screen. So if we click on this, it brings us to where we can enter our attendance. Now this is a testing environment, so what I need to do is, because I'm selecting this outside the course of the school year, I need to go back. By clicking on the date, I can go back in time to another date that has data associated with it. For the most part, throughout your year, you will have the date on a daily basis come up in line with what you're trying to do. So if I enter back into, say, June 18th, it brings me up the classes that are associated with me here. Now, depending on what grade level that you're teaching, or whether it be junior high or high school, the classes associated with you will be located along the left-hand side here. In this case, I'm going to take an AM attendance in homeroom 1A. Just by clicking on the functionality feature there, it brings up the students that are associated with that class. Now, if you're teaching a split class or have multiple classes within a certain time frame, you can access, you'll see a group of different classrooms associated at that time frame listed below here. In this case, we don't have it because it's a test feature. But a quick way, rather than going through each individual class to enter the attendance that's there, if you click on the main topic for the class, so in this case it's AM attendance, if you click on that, it will list all of the classes at one time, all of the students that are in that time frame for you at one time. Okay, so by quickly adding the attendance features for the day, you'll notice that we have two students in this class. We can individually add a code for where they are on that day, whether they be present or absent. There's a list of functionalities or keys here that you can select. We can do these individually, one at a time, by pulling down the drop-down box and selecting a code for each student. Or if we look at the top, there's two red arrows here, and that will allow us to flood fill for that entire class. So if we click on that and again choose present for these students and hit go, it fills the drop-down boxes for all the students in the class with that code that we just selected, making it a lot easier if we want to go back then, and if we have individual students who are not in class that day or away for certain purposes, we can change it at this point, rather do one or two rather than each one individually. You'll notice there's a little notepad underneath. It may be located underneath or to the side depending on how you have your screen set up, and this allows us to add additional information. So for example, if I had an absent unexcused, I could click on that notepad and enter the reason why that student was absent or not in class in that day or late on that day. So it could be something like bus late in here. And when we save this, any functionality that we do here, any changing to the drop downs that we do, any codes that we add inside the notebook, we have to save them. So that saves our features there. So now you'll notice that it has turned green. That indicates that there's some kind of comment inside that dialog box. Now the nice feature within SAS that we have here right now is the ability to have a tally at the end. So you'll notice that there are some categories here that we can select or that we can view that indicate to us what's going on with this student in the course of our class. So in this case, in the past, we've had one absent recorded, we've had one late recorded, we've had 14 presents, to total the fact of all of this information here in the last column on the right hand side. So very quickly a teacher can go and look at the tallies that are at the end and get an indication as to where the student is falling as far as attendance goes. One thing to make you aware of, if you are recording on an AM/PM basis, so in this case I take attendance twice, these numbers need to be halved, because you're taking attendance twice during the day. If you're at the high school level, you'll only record those on a once a day, so that the totals that are here will be accurate one for one. Okay, so let's say that we have a student who we know is going to be out for a period of time. Let's say they're going on vacation or away. we can access and enter that information or go back and look at past information rather than on a one-time basis. We can see a range of dates. So if we click on the little folder at the end with the person inside of it, it brings up a daily record of their attendance in your class. And you notice that at the top here, underneath their name, there are two sets of arrows. And by simply clicking left or right on that, it brings us back in the weeks prior to or after the date that we're in there right now. So you'll notice that the date is changing as I go through here, and the information that has or hasn't been recorded will show up on the screen in front of you. So let's say that we know going forward, going back to where we were, that we know that for the rest of the week, Sally is not going to be part of the class. If we can again do the single drop down where we can add a code in that represents what's going on that particular class on that particular day, or just like we did before with flood filling, we click on the red arrows and we can choose a category that can be used filled across, in this case from left to right. So if absent unexcused, I can enter a comment here just like we did on the previous screen. Again, anywhere you see a notepad, comments can be added. So away on trip in this case, and if I hit go, it floods from left to right across. So we'd have to do that for each row that's there, each category that's there, in order to fill ahead if we so choose. It's also useful if you have a student who's been absent or unexcused and for some reason the reason or the code needs to change, you can go back in time and change that as well. Just remember, every time that you do something along these lines of adding information, you need to save that information at the top. So the example that I'm showing you here now is based on multiple days. If you just want to change, let's say for example a student was absent yesterday and they were marked absent, if you want to just change that one particular day for that student, it's as simple as going back here to the screen and changing the date up here in the calendar. So we can choose the previous day, go back to that point. So in this case it would have been the 15th. Click on the class that I'm associating it with, and I can go back in here under that day and change the code that the student needs to have changed for that day. Remember again to always save the data that you have. So we'll save there. Thank you very much for taking part in this short little tutorial.